Hello YouTube, De-bodgery here. Welcome to EV Components Review. I have been taking photographs of my brand spanking new Rush controller, and as a result I have discovered a few things that I wish to show you. I'm going to just say this right up front. KO Moto never contacted me about my Pro controller and the obvious fact that it was repaired, and here it is. I have a Rush controller with even more repairs on it, which I will now show you. So first thing I want to point out here before I move into the evidence for obvious repair is the gloobers of stuff on the board. You can see them all up in here. You can see them on top of these components. Clearly no concern whatsoever for washing anything off. You can see them all over the CPU, just, blobs of goobers and stuff. I will wash this board because KO Moto can't be bothered to. To me, this is embarrassing as hell. I would get fired for work like this, okay? I just would. So, KO Moto, I'm just going to put this out there right up front. You guys are jerks for selling me something that is obviously used and repaired. You tell people that something is a refurb. You tell people that something is repaired. You don't sell it as a new product because you lied to them. This is falsification in every possible way. You are flat out lying to people by selling them used products, repaired products, damaged products as if they are new. And this is repaired so many times, I can't even begin to tell you. My Pro controller was repaired, but at least those were fairly minor. This one, the repairs are everywhere. So let's get into some of those repairs. KO Moto, I am thoroughly pissed off at you. Thoroughly pissed off at you. I bought a controller from you in good faith. Not that you ever have good faith. Hell, you refuse to even support me. And then you sell me something badly damaged and repaired. Yeah, I don't like KO Moto. You guys suck. This is terrible. So let's get into the repairs. All right, so the first thing I want to do before I show you the repairs, however, is these screw terminals, or pads rather. This was the one that sheared off of the main power stage, but that one's kind of bright and shiny. You can't really see it so well, but you can see these ones. All three of those screws were really cranked down. It's just that this is the one that was cammed out of the screw head, but these ones are still really, really tight. So let's look at those. Sorry for the grainy picture that zoomed way in, right? But it's obvious. You can see that it's kind of dented in. You can see that the pad is seriously scrubbed away from being cranked on so damn tight. This one right here is the one that sheared off. It's kind of hard to see it because of the glare from the camera flash. But again, it's pretty well damaged from just the tightness of the screw. On this one here, this one is nice and telling because you can see the actual denting of the circuit board, which is what you're looking at. Right here, you can see where the circuit trace pads on top are cracked away. You can see it there too. And over there, why the stud didn't shear off, your guess is as good as mine, because damn, to get the board to compress like that took a lot of serious gorilla type power on that screw to make that happen. How they didn't cam out the screw head on that one and not shear off the stud is a complete mystery, but that has been compressed really heavily. No reason on the planet to screw those screws down that tightly ever. Anyway, yeah, that was overkill in every possible way. The other thing I want to show you is the Kapton tape. So you can see that it's lifted up. You can see the ragged ends on it. You can see how ragged it is in here, how lifted up it is. This is amateurish at best. This is the typical KO Moto way. Slap it together for the cheapest way possible, lowest level of skill, care about nothing. I would get fired if I did work this shoddy. And that's just a piece of Kapton tape. That's not everything else. So yeah, this is just horrible in every possible way. If you give a slight shit about what you do, you never do work this shoddy. If I was repairing something and my boss saw it, he would say, dude, unsolder all those caps and fix that piece of tape. I would never be allowed to get away with something like this because that's how crappy this is. This is horrifically bad work. Yeah, look at how ragged it is. Look at how ragged that is. It's wrinkled. It wasn't even laid down flat. This was done by somebody who literally cares nothing whatsoever about how shoddy their work is. This is terrible work. Okay, let's move on. Because I have plenty of repair evidence to show you. So here you are looking at the MOSFET drivers and the op-amp in that rightmost section by those connectors. If you look at these 4 resistors right here, you will notice the solder looks kind of dull. You don't see any flux around them. They're all in nice even rows. That's typical machine placed parts. That's typical reflow soldering. You can see the same thing here. This little capacitor, those 2 little resistors, same thing. The solder joints are very, very uniform. It's kind of got a dull look to it. There's no flux around them because that is typical machine style soldering. And it's called reflow soldering. Same thing. Down here on this little 6-pin chip, you can see that the solder is very even and smooth. It's not shiny, no flux around it, because that was done by a machine that placed the part, placed a little bit of solder paste on the joint, heated the board up, and let everything all flow together. You can see the same thing on this regulator. You know, everywhere that you can look at, you can see that very, very uniform soldering that is so indicative of machine reflow soldering. But if you look at like this op-amp package, you can see that there's flux all over the place. The solder looks different. The solder joints aren't all nice and uniform. That was replaced. That chip was replaced. Look at this MOSFET driver. Same thing, flux everywhere. Solder is not all completely uniform. It's a different kind of solder. It's shinier. Clearly, that chip was replaced. Same thing for this MOSFET driver. Replaced. Look at all these diodes. All of them have been replaced. Everywhere there's a diode, they were all replaced. This connector was hand soldered. Look at all the flux around it. Look how shiny the solder is. That connector was hand soldered. So, just this by itself, everything in this gate circuit right here got blown up and was replaced. That's the only reason why you have this level of repair work, is because everything here died. All right, so let's move on because there is lots more of repair evidence on this board. All right, so on my Pro controller, this Max 485 chip was blown up too, right from the factory, and they replaced it because it looked just like this. Flux all over the place, obviously hand soldered. Yeah, it was a repair board too, and here it is again. These are probably TVS's, I'm guessing. Anyway, you can see that that one was hand soldered. Same thing for that diode. All 4 of those were hand soldered. And yet if you look over here at these 4 resistors, or 8 resistors right there, you can see how nice and even they are. You can see how even the solder connections are. That is classic reflow machine soldering. And these ones got flux all over them. Even 2 of the 4 diodes are crooked. Yeah, that is classic signs of hand soldering. When I hand solder, oftentimes I get parts a little bit crooked like this because, you know, hands aren't as steady as machines are. Clearly this transistor was replaced. Clearly this part, this diode, and this transistor were replaced. Lots of repair work done on this board. Lots and lots of repair work right here. And this is all input circuitry right here. These are probably TVS's is my guess. You know, in other words, protection components. But yeah, lots of repair work right here in the input section. This board suffered some severe catastrophic harm, okay? And they had to do a lot of repair to get it working again. Let us move on because there is gobs more to see. So here is that through-hole chip that is surface mounted. And again, you can see all the flux around it. You can see goobers on top of it. You can see whatever this thing is. I think that's some kind of an isolation transformer. But again, all this stuff was replaced. This capacitor was replaced. All those components blew up. They got replaced. This diode blew up and got replaced. Over here, you can see those 4 diodes I mentioned before. You can see the 2 crooked ones. You can see these 2 components better. Obviously, those parts got replaced. This is no way, shape, or form a new board. It is a refurb. I got a damaged board that got massive repairs on it done to it and then shipped and sold as if it was new. This is called fraud. They lie every step of the way. And here is your proof of it. This is repairs, folks. Straight up repair work done on this board. No other ways about it. You cannot imagine how pissed off I am at KO Moto for shipping me an obviously damaged and repaired board. This is not acceptable. All right. This right here is the leftmost set of MOSFET drivers. And again, look at all the flux. Look at all of the solder work done on all these MOSFET drivers. All 4 of these MOSFET drivers died. The other ones died too. All of these little diodes died. Yeah, this controller, the power stage, basically blew up in a really catastrophic way, and it took out all of this stuff too. That's what this means. When this kind of level of damage occurs and you have to do this level of repair, that is because you had a catastrophic failure on your power stage and it took all this stuff out too. I have repaired stuff like this. I know what to look for. You see this kind of stuff. And except, of course, if I did this work, you would not see flux all over the place. You would still be able to see the shiny solder, of course, because I still hand soldered the parts. But you would see no flux. It'd be very, very clean. It wouldn't look sloppy like this does. I'm sorry, KO Moto. You guys sold me a massively damaged, used logic board that you did significant repair work on. Folks, I believe that KO Moto is under seriously strapped tight finances, something like that. Why would they spend so much time repairing a board? These things are just not worth that much money. The only thing that makes any sense to me, rather than just swapping this out for a new one off of the production line, is they are so strapped for cash that this is what they have to do. You know, literally people's time that is cheap, over in China is cheaper than dropping a board in the trash can and getting another one. I don't know what else to say. Either that or they just got labor that's like a penny a day or something. And so it's just so cheap that they can just do stuff like this and not care. And clearly they don't care, as this is repair work straight up. No other way you can explain this. All right, so let us move on, because there is more to see, of course. Yeah. In fact, let's look at that solder pad right there. You can see how badly crushed it is. Yeah, that screw was massively too tight. There's only one explanation for that, and that was a gorilla basically cranked on that screw and just really wrenched on it way too tight. And that's the one, by the way, that sheared off the stud. And now you can see why. It's because, well, it was way the hell too tight. All right, let us move on to the next picture. So here we are looking at the underside of the logic board. Yeah. Once again, if I did this level of sloppiness, I would be fired. I don't care that they hand soldered the capacitors. I don't care about that. I hand solder a lot. I've been doing it for 30 years. I've worked with electronics for 30 years. That part is fine. It's how sloppy it is. It's all the flux everywhere. It's the mess everywhere. Yeah, this sort of thing is not acceptable. This is done shoddily. It's done poorly. And in fact, let's zoom in a little bit so you can see just why you clean stuff off. You see this right here? You have a circuit trace here. You have a little blob of solder kind of half bridging that. Guess what happens when you have things like that? It's called arcing. It's called stuff blows up. So you clean off your board to get rid of all this kind of stuff, because this is just solder that's, it's not really attached to anything per se. It's just kind of like bridging between two circuit traces. And if you clean off your board, you get rid of all that stuff. Look at all the little bits of solder and crap in here. This is terrible. Look at all this stuff. Look at all the crap in here. This is why you wash your boards. I'm sorry, folks. This is crappy. This is terrible. This is awful. How about look at this right here? So this leg and this capacitor, it's not even flowed down very well. I mean, I would never leave a solder joint like that. That's bad. That's horrible. I mean, I look at that and I'm just embarrassed. I would never do work like this. Never, ever. Like this one here, you can see it's got like this little, bump coming off of it. The reason why that's that way is because the solder was either cold and it pulled away with the soldering tip, or it didn't have enough flux on off to begin with, and so it didn't flow very well, or it wasn't hot enough, or all of the above. And anyway, you get this kind of result. So how you fix this is you apply heat to it and you apply flux to it, and then it will flow like how you see on this one right here or this one right here. Those are pretty good flow. But yeah, it's basically because you've got some pollution in there, or you don't have the heat right, something like that. Same thing here. You don't have a very good solder joint. This one's even worse. Yeah, that's not acceptable solder joints by any stretch of the imagination. I would never do stuff like this. I scrutinize my work. I will never tolerate solder joints like this. If I know about them, I fix them. This kind of work is pretty gross. And all the flux on here, all I can say is yuck. KO Moto, damn. You guys suck. This is terrible. Yeah, this is really, really gross. Yeah, I would never, ever, ever in 1,000 years ever allow myself to have solder work this shoddy and this messy. I would clean up all of the flux, and then I would go back over and scrutinize all of my solder joints like this one here. See how lumpy it is? I would go back over, look them over, and make sure that I had nice, good flow. Like this one is good right there. Those are pretty good. Those are good right there. But yeah, you got other ones like this. You see this ring around this leg. That one is pretty awful. That's a cold solder joint. It's probably not really making up to that leg very well. Yeah, you've got a bunch of bad solder joints here. Basically, somebody who has no skill, somebody who doesn't care what they're doing, they did this solder work, and then obviously they didn't clean up after themselves, which is why it is that it looks so trashy. Yeah, I find this deeply embarrassing. Deeply embarrassing. I would never do work like this. Never, ever, ever. All right. So, yeah. That's the logic board. Let's move on. So I just want you to keep this in mind. This is obviously the logic board, or I'm sorry, the power stage from my Pro controller. Yeah, and you see the same shoddy work here. Crooked bridges, all these little scraps of copper laid down from some spool, same old BS as before. These holes, they let heat out. Yeah, whatever. What a load of crap. Giant ass gaps in like your battery minus bus, big ass gap there, gap, gap, gap. No battery plus reinforcing. It's the same garbage as always that I've shown you before, except for now they're doing it on the Rush. And I'm only showing you this to remind you of just how crappy the Pro and F-Spec power stages are. So let's look at the Rush power stages, because it's so much better. Not. Not at all. Nope, it's not better. All right, so let us look at the Rush main power stage. There she is. All right, so this is better. So you've got this continuous piece of copper that actually does curve around this, and they're soldered together. And this continuous piece of copper that does touch this thing, soldered together, and curves around it. So good job there. You can't see it because it's covered up in plastic right here, but this piece of copper right there has a big gap between it and this stud. There is no solder or copper or anything between these two studs. As you can see here, there's nothing there. So same old crappy thing as the Pro and the F-Spec power stage. Again, gap, gap, gap. So why did you even bother putting this copper down here if you're not going to fix all your gaps, KO Moto? This is the same crap as you did on the Pro and F-Spec power stage all over again. You literally fixed nothing at all. You fixed nothing. Okay. That's about all I really want to show there. Of course, battery plus is still not reinforced. This phase over here is still not reinforced. This piece of plastic, this is glass reinforced something. I don't know what kind of plastic it is. There's not like a molding mark saying it's like polycarbonate or something like that. So I can't really say. It has to be a high temperature plastic because it has to tolerate these studs being soldered down. So yeah, that's a lot of heat for plastic. So this has got to be some kind of a high temperature plastic, whatever it is. And hopefully these things all have knurls inside them so that the stud can grip into the plastic so you can't twist off those studs so easily. I don't actually know that. I would have to take one of those apart to find out. That might actually be worthwhile, because otherwise, if there isn't any knurls and it's just smooth, then this piece of plastic is an utter waste of effort. Which wouldn't be surprising, because most everything else that KO Moto did is an utter waste of effort. All right, so there's the main power stage. And I am far from done. All right, so let's move to right here. Yeah. Let's zoom right on in. So you can see that this comb is lifted right off the circuit trace. That's a crack underneath there, folks. It's not soldered down. Let's go over here. Same thing, not soldered down. Let's go over here. That was a little bit blurrier. Not soldered down. This is on my Rush controller. My Rush controller, brand spanking new, and one of the phase bus reinforcements isn't even soldered down. Something else for me to fix. Yeah. This is actually a pretty decent solder joint. So you can see how the solder flows from the comb up the face of the bar. That's the bridge. So I like seeing things like that. That's a fairly decent solder joint. That's probably going to hold up pretty well. But cracks don't self-heal. This is only going to get worse. Exactly how long it will take before this piece of copper completely lifts off of the trace underneath it, I can't really say, but I don't expect it to be very long. So yeah, that's absolutely flat out got to get fixed. Yeah, KO Moto, you know, if you want to warranty your products, you know how to get a hold of me so you can fix this shit. Because obviously, I got a refurb controller, and it's got other problems too, and I haven't even turned the damn thing on yet. Right from your factory, it's obviously got major issues. Fix your damn hardware, guys. Your quality control sucks. So, KO Moto, here's your big chance to do one thing right by me. One thing right. Warranty this controller. Send me a replacement Rush controller that doesn't have all this shitty work in it. Send me one that's not a repair. One that doesn't have cracked solder joints in it. On and on we go. Yeah, you guys have thoroughly pissed me off. I spent all that money on this kit, and I get this kind of crap. All right, so next picture. Go ahead, KO Moto. I dare you to contact me and warranty this thing and replace it. You know, do all that grand stuff that you tell other people that you do, that people seem to love you for, and yet I hate you for it because you don't support me for dick. You've banned me, always. Fix your shit. This is terrible. All right, so I do have something to praise KO Moto for. Check this out. So I took this picture on purpose. So this piece of copper that's on the upper stage, the middle stage rather, and you can see it's got a curve in it, and you can see that it is soldered to that cone-shaped connector. So, wow, that's fantastic. I like seeing things like this. Of course, this is on a power stage that flat out does not need to exist, but there it is. That's what I want to see. Stuff like this is good. All right, next I have more of that. So I wanted to take a couple examples of it. So again, here is one of the battery minus buses, and you can see the solder flows from the piece of brass down to the copper. It's got that nice curve to it. This is a good solder joint. This is better than the other one because it's got that nice flow between the two where they join together and they flow together. If I go back to that other picture, you can see that it does not. It's a bit of a starved joint, but at least it does curve together. So you can see that there is no flow between the two of them. It doesn't make that kind of curve. It's just like down in the joint. This is a weaker solder joint. It really should flow up here and curve down to here like you see in that other one. Like you saw in the end of the copper where I showed the lifted comb. Those are good solder joints. This is much weaker. This is starved. There's not enough solder here. But hey, you know, it's a hell of a lot better than you've done in the past, KO Moto. All right, so both of those are a vast improvement over what has been done before, but there's always a but. How can there not be? Because, well, this is KO Moto. So this is the battery minus bus, big ass gap, not soldered to the stud, broken battery minus current path. As you can see, there's a trace underneath it. They didn't even bother taking up the solder resist on the board to make it possible for the two of them to be soldered together. They just went, you know what? We just don't care. We just don't care. And we're going to deliberately make it short and leave it that way. Yeah. I mean, why did you even bother putting the copper down if you can't even make a completed current path? Oh my God, KO Moto, really? This is the best you've got? Yeah, love the Kapton tape. Wow, guys, double thumbs up. That's super cool. Not. Yeah, God. Let's move on. Okay, so I want to show you something about these. All right, so you can see inside this connector. I took this picture over and over again until I could see those fingers inside, because I can see with my eyeballs, but getting this on camera was a bit of an effort. So let me get right in there. All right, so you are looking at the fingers inside here. So here's one right here. Here's one right there. Here's another one. Here's another one. Notice how ragged and scorched they are. Yeah, ragged and scorched. So ask yourself for a second, what would possibly cause them to end up looking like that? Because they shouldn't look that way, folks. It's because that connector suffered some massive current spikes. That's how they got that way. So that's called arcing and scorching to make them ragged and rough and blackened like that. This connector saw something really bad happen to it. Something really bad. And now I'm going to zoom out because I'm going to show you what one should look like, or, well, closer to what one should look like, because you can see the difference. So this is one of the phase connections. So you can see how those fingers are very nice and smooth, but nevertheless, these ones still have black stuff on them. Clearly, something bad has been happening here. In fact, you can see the discoloration. See how this is much lighter colored than this is here. So this is reddish like copper should be. This is much lighter. This is called oxidation on here. So massive current was through here and it left scorching on here. Yeah, like right there, you can really see it. You can see that curve in there. These fingers got really hot. Really, 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 really hot. And most likely, that's because the power stage is shorted out. They literally blew up. And these connectors got super hot, and that's why there's scorching on here, and that's why there's the discoloration. And that also explains why it is in that other one. And I'll go grab that picture again. That also explains why those are so ragged and so scorched, because this power stage was a dead short. I mean, it suffered something really, really bad to do that to the fingers. Something really, 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 really bad. So, yeah. Something here has been repaired significantly again. And once again, KO Moto has cheated and lied to me and sold me something that is obviously repaired and not new. This is damaged in every possible way. The evidence is right there. Look how badly scorched and fraggled and damaged the springs are inside that copper connector. That is pretty awful. And you see evidence of it here as well. Look at all the scoring on there. Look at the discoloration. This got really hot. It just didn't arc through like it did on that battery minus one. But they still got really hot. It's the only reason why they are oxidized in a lighter color like this rather than that reddish copper color like this, because they got super hot and it left all this carbon on the copper as a result. So I changed my opinion about these things being great. Clearly they're not. Clearly they already fail, even on something that's got 0 time on it from me. Pulled it right out of the box, opened it up, and see this. Over this one here, you can see the same thing. You see the same kind of scorching on there. Something really catastrophic happened here, and they repaired it and sold it as if it was new. Good job, KO Moto. You guys suck giant donkey dicks again. All I can say is, KO Moto, I am seriously pissed off at you. I buy your hardware, and you send me used and repaired stuff. You don't send me anything new. This is shoddy, 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 shoddy. Holy cow. How disappointing can you possibly be that you will send somebody obviously repaired hardware as if it were new? You should sell this as a discount as refurbed. That's what people that are honest do. All right, let us move on because there's more to see. Of course there is. All right, so let's look at these two bridges. Yeah. God, that is super cool. Look how nice and straight that is. Yep. Nice and crooked. Couldn't even care that it was straight. Yeah, that's the KO Moto way. We literally don't give a shit. And we're going to go the cheapest way possible. We're just going to wrap this one with some Kapton tape and call it good. Yeah, that one's straighter, but it's still not straight. All I can say is, ugh. Holy cow. Nice big gap in the battery minus bus. Yeah, typical KO Moto shitty ways of doing everything. Holy crap, this, yeah, everything is awesome. Super cool. All right, so here is your entire upper power stage. Yeah, I hope that this inside here is thermal paste. I don't know what that is. I will stick a Q-tip down there and see. Hopefully that stuff comes out. But yeah, you definitely don't want something insulating the little copper fingers from the brass stud. It's already a connector, which shouldn't exist anyway. They've already got scoring on them like this one does, which you can see in that other picture. So yeah, so whatever this is coding here, that's not good either. That's bad. You definitely don't want that to happen. But yeah, there it is. I haven't looked at these other connectors up close, and you can't really see them so well from this angle. The one that I took that close photo of was this one right here, because, you know, this one right here is the one that's got all that really bad fingers over in this area. And so I photographed this one too a bunch of times to see how that one was. So anyway, yeah, clearly battery minus in this power stage has seen something really awful happen to it. Yeah, something really awful happened to it. Okay, is there anything else I want to show you that I noticed that was seriously damning in here? And I think I've gone through everything now. So anyway, folks, KO Moto is up to the same old shenanigans as ever. Selling you used stuff as if it was new, lying to you, producing really crappy hardware again, continuously, when have they not? And here it is all over again. When I saw my macro pictures and was going through them, I just got madder and madder and madder because I realized I have a refurbished controller, one that's been repaired, obviously so, and suffered catastrophic damage on at least one power stage. So yeah, KO Moto, you guys suck. You guys suck. Oh, and I didn't even mention that one. I did mention it, but yeah, this right here, this is on the main power stage. So yeah, main power stage is a shit show too. Damaged right from the factory. That is awful. That is shoddy as can be. I will absolutely have to fix this myself. Or KO Moto, here's your big chance, folks. Why don't you contact me and warranty this? Send me another controller that's actually perfect. Unlike this one, which is obviously damaged and repaired repeatedly. So, KO Moto, this is a warranty issue if there ever was one. This alone is a warranty issue if there ever was one. The fact that the middle power stage is obviously seeing catastrophic damage is a warranty issue if there ever was one. You should never ship damaged, repaired hardware as new ever. My logic board is obviously used and damaged and repaired heavily. You should never ship this as new. The repairs on here are everywhere. Everything here has been repaired. Everything here has been repaired. Everything here has been repaired. Everything there has been repaired. This is so much repair on a logic board. Literally 80%, 90% of the components on this board have been repaired and replaced. KO Moto, you should never, ever, ever do this to your customers. This is terrible. This is bad. And you sold this as a brand new controller. And this is your level of concern for your customers. None whatsoever. You're liars. You're cheaters. You sell used, damaged, massively damaged hardware as new. Come on, really? And you've done this to me twice now. The Pro is the same thing. All this stuff down here was obviously repaired. At least nothing else was that I saw. It still had 2 solder blobs on it, which I found in the macro video. All I can say is KO Moto, oh my god, you guys suck giant donkey dicks!